listeners, and welcome to the Liberty Mike podcast, broadcasting from an undisclosed location in the heart of Dixie. I am Michael, and I am here with Liberty Larry.
How's it going?
I've had better days. So we're going to try and keep this short. Yeah.
Not having a good time over there.
No, not at all.
You don't look like you're having a good time.
Yeah, there's no position where I can sit up and talk into the mic that's comfortable right now. So and this is the only day that we could record, really. We're confident that we could record this week. That's why it's a little early. This is not an emergency pod.
Oh, come on, man.
If we were going to do an emergency pod, it would have been on Sunday.
You think so?
Yeah, probably.
Or Monday or Tuesday. It feels like there's been a lot of emergency pod moments this week.
Maybe every pod is an emergency.
Yeah.
By the way, this is a little pet peeve of mine. I don't like the shorthand pod for podcast. I think that just sounds stupid.
I agree.
I have always abbreviated, I guess. I don't know.
For shorthand, for me, has always been cast.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's apostrophe cast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well. But
pod just sounds silly to me.
It does. I agree. My old friend that I talked about a couple of years ago that I'd gotten back in touch with after like 20 years, a friend from college, he uses pod as his shorthand. And that might even have been the first time I'd seen that.
Oh, yeah.
In like a text message from him or something. I was like, all right, I know what you're talking about, but that just sounds stupid.
All right. That's not what I do.
Yeah. I do not do a pod. I do a cast.
Exactly.
It's way better that way. It's obviously more professional if it's a cast than if it's a pod.
Right.
So my doctor asked me today if my arm was more comfortable when I put my hand up in the air.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, better than putting it out in front of me. But I haven't noticed a significant difference there. And then I thought, has he just given me a new position that might be comfortable?
Yeah.
And so
you've got the student in class position right now.
I do. The very excited student in class.
Yes, exactly.
Except I'm not very excited.
Yeah. Well, you don't look very excited, but your hand's up.
Yeah. It helps a very, very little bit. It's not what I'd hoped for. And so for like the last week, I can't take enough of anything to make my arm stop hurting. And it turns out it's like a compressed nerve, and that's why.
Yeah.
But they gave me some medicine today, but it's not a painkiller. And whatever else it's supposed to do, it's not doing it yet.
Yeah. That's disappointing because
we're not doing it well enough. Well, they don't want to give anybody pain pills anymore.
Well,
they're like, it doesn't matter how much you complain at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, my regular doctor might, just because she knows that like I don't like taking pills.
Yeah.
Like I'm really opposed to taking medication, pretty much of any kind, and so like if I pressed her, I might.
Yeah. Well, when
get a real pain pill, but
when I went to see her for my back, I told her, I was like, whatever you've got to do to make me better. Like I told her, I was like, I want to be better though. I don't want to just mask the pain. Yeah. Like I want to fix me. So, and she did. So modern medicine is an amazing thing.
Yeah. Can be.
So
some of that stuff works.
Yeah. You seem a little more skeptical at the moment.
Well, it's good for injuries, I think. I have some doubts about modern medicine in terms of disease.
Yeah.
Not in all cases. I mean, it's proven effective in some ways. But most disease, you're just like you were saying, you're just like masking symptoms.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna make the symptoms not make you as so miserable until you get better, till your body fights it off like it's supposed to.
Which in those cases, I would rather just let my body fight it off.
Yeah.
Like, I've had that argument with the wife more than once.
I'm sure. I'm one of those guys that'll sit there with 102-degree fever too, because
Me
hey,
too.
man, the fever's there for a reason.
Exactly. Well, my policy is 24 hours with the fever. Like,
Yeah.
if the fever hasn't kicked in 24 hours, I'll start doing something to bring the fever down. But the first 24, let that fever do its thing. And so often, like, I've been better after that.
Yeah.
That actually works.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the fever. Sweat it out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I can sleep through anything, so like I can just like get in bed and like run a fever and sleep.
Yeah, I can't do that. That's one of the problems with that strategy for me, is like letting an illness run its course. Is that I might go in that case like 2 or 3 days without sleep.
Oh no.
And that does not help your body.
Yeah, exactly.
Fight anything off. Or like sleep intermittently. I say without sleep. It's not entirely without sleep, but it's like an hour here.
Yeah.
40 minutes there. Kind of.
I'll lose like 10 hours.
I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
But I have tried all kinds of stuff over the last week, and like I took pain medicine that I'd gotten from my last kidney stone. That didn't help.
Yeah.
Alcohol, that didn't help. Can't get drunk enough. I can get drunk enough to fall asleep though.
Yeah, but when you wake up, your arm still hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really have to pee.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's skip all that. There's no reason to keep going. Nobody wants to hear about this, I'm sure. They want to hear what our take is on us attacking Iran, like us as in the United States itself attacking Iran. I think probably that's what most people.
Well, I'm trying to remember
about.
where we left off. So had they attacked last time?
No, that didn't happen till Saturday night, Sunday morning.
That's right. They did it over the weekend.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because I don't think I called it on the podcast. I'd actually thought they was going to do it on Friday.
Yeah.
I didn't call it on the podcast because I was like, who the hell knows? But I was in my mind, I was like, he's going to do this on a Friday. It turned out he did it on a Saturday.
Yeah. Sunday technically over there.
Over there, wasn't okay.
Yeah.
So, I guess the moon was right.
Yeah. So my mom asked if I saw this coming, and I said, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
It's like I really hoped not. I mean, we made that part clear on the last podcast. Please have us let us have enough sense not to get directly involved in this.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we made. I felt like on the podcast like it was going to happen. I don't know if I actually like said one way or the other, but I mean, I definitely figured it was coming. Unfortunately, but I really hoped it wouldn't. But it's been kind of a roller coaster since it happened, because so we dropped the bombs and I hit I'm using air quotes, nuclear sites.
Yeah. And it was a great big victory, and everything was destroyed, and we set them back forever, and years, and
yeah, it's funny how that goalpost has moved over the week too, because you're right. That's what they were saying after the strikes. Is like, oh, if this were at first, it was if this went as planned, then they're set back years and blah blah blah, and then so Trump's out there saying that it did go as planned, and they're set back years, and now everything I've heard is months. Like I keep hearing that now, but I think that's just the neocons trying to nudge us back into this thing.
Yeah,
like I think that's the neocon kind of talking point as well. It's only set them back a few months. We may have to go back in and do this again.
Yeah. Well, let's start from there and catch up, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
So, first off, the attack on Iran was completely unconstitutional. The president does not have the authority to start a war, no matter what they call it. Like, if you bomb somebody...
that's not a war, like it's a military action.
Yeah, that's like... Okay. What if... So this is what they're saying afterwards. Like, oh, this was just a single strike to achieve a specific objective. This is not a war. We're not starting a war with Iran. I mean, you hear Hegseth and Rubio. Rubio very expressly said, oh, well, we didn't start a war with Iran. It was just a military strike or whatever.
Yeah.
Just imagine if after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, they had said, "Oh, well, we weren't starting a war. It was just a military strike to, eliminate a specific threat to us.
Yeah.
So that's it. We're done.
Yeah,
It's all over. It wasn't a war. There's no reason for you to strike back."
Yeah, exactly.
What?
How would we feel about that?
I mean, but that's what the U.S. is trying to do here. And of course, Trump was immediately saying, they better not hit us back. They should know that this is the end of it. Like, and don't do anything about it. Like, what country can do that?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that you can attack a country blatantly like that and expect them to just say, "Oh, well, water under the bridge."
Yeah, right.
I just...
As long as you say that you're not going to do it again, we're going to let this one slide.
Yeah, that's so
and
absurd.
Especially
it's just such a bully maneuver anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't speak well to us.
Yeah.
And the idea that the United States believes that it can just go launch military strikes against any country that it feels like anytime it wants, and they're not allowed to respond to it.
Yeah. Well, it really, what I don't think a lot of people understand is this really put us in a bad position in what Trump did, because what ends up happening is so we made that strike, and then he comes out and says, "Okay, no retaliation back. We're done. Blah 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 blah." Just like you laid out. Well, Iran can hit us. Like, we've got military installations all over the Middle East that are vulnerable.
Yeah, for some reason they put their country in the middle of all our military bases. Yeah. We've seen those memes, right?
Exactly. So we can be touched over there. Mm-hmm. And fortunately for us, when Iran did retaliate, it was one of those...
They hit an empty base and they warned us in advance.
And they warned us in advance. But
just like after the Soleimani assassination.
Yeah. But the deal is they didn't have to do that.
Yeah. Here's the thing that it feels like nobody understands in this country or on the news in this country, is that there's no country in the world that wants a war with the United States.
Yeah.
The United States is more secure from an attack, from a legitimate military attack, than any country has ever been in the history of the world.
Yeah.
The United States has something like half of the military capability of the entire world.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody wants to attack us. Yet for some reason we're in wars all the time. And you have to start asking yourself the question, well, if nobody's attacking us, why are we at war all the time?
Right. Because it's big money.
Well, it is big money. But what I was getting at really is, like, we're the aggressors everywhere.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and this is no different. And I tell you, we're really lucky here that Iran decided to handle this the way they did, with some restraint.
Yeah.
Because they could have attacked the base and killed a bunch of U.S. servicemen.
Which, by the way, runs completely counter to the narrative that they've been spouting about Iran for as long as I can remember, which is that they can't have nuclear weapons because they'd use them as soon as they got them because they have no restraint.
Yeah. Well, exactly. This whole situation flies in the face of that because, like I say, we're touchable over there. Could have been touched and wasn't, and it was restrained on their part. Now, truth be told, they don't want a war with us, just like what you were laying out. Like, they don't want this fight. This isn't a fight that they want, which is the reason they chose the path they did. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I think is the most reckless about it is Trump. There's no way Trump could have absolutely known that that's what would have happened.
Yes.
Like, I mean, this could have
really thought that American servicemen were going to die after that attack.
No, I did too. And so I was actually at the house and watched some of the live coverage of the attack Monday. Mm-hmm. And I mean, by the time I left the house and had to go to work, it was pretty well confirmed that we had been pre-warned, and that everything looked like it was in order for this to not be the catastrophe it was. But I didn't know that when I turned on the TV and they're showing the footage. And because there's no way you could have known that. And this was, if any servicemen had died, even just a handful, like there's no way Trump could have took that and not have had to re-escalate.
Yeah.
Like he's that's not who he is. Like he couldn't have.
Well, and the people around him probably wouldn't have allowed it either, because there's a lot of people around him that are just pushing for this anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
which makes the next half of this even more bizarre.
Yeah. But we're not there yet, because the first thing is that, like I said, the president doesn't have the authority to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
The Constitution says that that Congress needs to declare war, and even the War Powers Act says that the president can act unilaterally only if there's an imminent threat to the United States.
Yeah. Which is not what this is.
Yeah, where is that?
Nobody's even making that argument.
Right. And if he was smart, honestly, he would have gone to Congress anyway.
Yeah, because he could have got it. The votes were there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I am sure. And, there's been so much rhetoric about it. I'm sure it's not like Iran wasn't prepared for an attack from the United States at this point. Or, I mean, at the very least, they have been prepared for attacks since the first attack by Israel.
Yeah.
No matter who it's coming from.
And if it was played correctly, he could have went to Congress on the idea, like, I'm considering this, I would like approval, and then I'll make a decision whether or not I'm going to follow through. That way, it does leave that benefit of the doubt of, well, maybe we're going to do this, maybe we're not,
We're in a strange situation here. I want approval in case action becomes necessary, something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it almost certainly would have been approved. And then if things had gone differently, and instead of them attacking an empty base, they had actually killed American soldiers.
Yeah.
And things went sideways from there, which they certainly could.
Like,
Iran can't win a war against the United States, but they can do some damage.
But they can inflict some pain.
Yeah. And then he could blame it on Congress. Well, Congress approved the war and so on. Now, if things go south, go sideways, go whatever, fill your own term in, then it's him. Yeah. It's on him.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm sure, and this should bother people anyway, is that I'm sure that he went to the Gang of Eight, the leadership in both houses. I'm sure that they were aware of this, but that means that
they claim they weren't.
Oh well,
that was another thing that had came out through this, is that at least the Democrat side were claiming that they weren't made aware.
Then he actually was acting completely unilaterally, like the dictator that people claim that he is. Now, I don't think that he is. No. But this is an action that qualifies.
He does have that way about him though, which is
because he's been the boss man of businesses. But this isn't the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. He's that's a good way of thinking about it, because he is very much like, this is what we're going to do. I'm telling you what we're going to do, and then here we go. And that the other countries just don't respond to that, or they don't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, this does seem to have played out,
and it's illegal in this country, which is probably the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I know that people are upset about people calling for Trump's impeachment over this.
Yeah.
But he deserves impeachment over this.
Yeah, I think Massey had actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had.
That's going to make him even more popular.
Oh, so obviously. Trump's already unloaded on him again.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure.
Yeah,
that's. Like, hey, man, you have a job description and you're acting outside of it.
Yeah. The problem is though that it's not like this is the first time this has ever happened. So, I mean, you go down the list. I saw somebody posted a list going back. I don't know, to I want to say Lyndon Johnson, of just military strikes done by presidents that were not approved by Congress.
Yeah. True. I'm not disputing any of that. All of them should have been impeached.
Well, but that's I think the difference that we have that a lot of people don't, though. It's like, well, the Republicans were all over Obama when he did it, and now the Democrats are all over Trump when he did it.
Yeah.
But
my position is not partisan.
Yeah.
My position is that this is a matter of law. The Constitution is the supreme law.
Well, it's set up that way to prevent this type of thing from happening.
Yeah. And the other part of that is that there was some polling that came out before the strike that said that there isn't any segment of America, like no demographic in America wants war with Iran.
Yeah.
Not
That's
one.
that's pretty striking in itself.
Yeah. And so, yeah, this government of, by, and for the people really just doesn't care what the people think about any of the actions that it takes.
Yeah.
Now, that's been clear for years, but it's like really laid on the table right now.
Well, because, and I mean, it was true with Obama too, particularly with the election of Obama and Trump, both times, because both of those guys ran on a very hardcore anti-interventionist like platform.
Yeah.
Both won overwhelmingly.
Bush did too.
Well, yeah, he did. Yeah, Bush did. You're right. Absolutely. Bush did too. So, I mean, it just goes to show you is that Scott Horton or Tom Woods? No matter who you vote for, you always end up with John McCain.
That's Tom Woods.
Is that Woods? Yeah. It's true.
Horton's law is that every president will always keep all their bad promises and break all their good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're bearing that out right now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the Woods law is no matter who you vote for, you end up with John McCain.
Yeah, exactly. And this is proof of that.
I'm sure that guy's doing a little jig in his grave.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like this idea of, we set back their nuclear program for years, or maybe even we've destroyed their potential for a nuclear weapon or whatever, is so absurd. First off, they can't know what damage has been done under the ground.
Yeah, not without being there or sending people there.
Yeah. So any claims that they make about the damage that was done, they can't know. In the same way that, when they put out that COVID vaccine, and I kept saying the claims that they're making about its safety and effectiveness, they can't possibly know at this point. They haven't had enough time to test this. Yeah, there's not enough evidence for the claims that they're making about the damage that they've done either.
Yeah.
Just can't be known at this point.
It's just a lie.
But even if everything that they claimed about it was true, even if they completely destroyed the nuclear labs, et cetera, that doesn't prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Iran has friends that already have nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Developing your own is not the only way to get a nuclear weapon.
Right. Yeah.
Ask Israel.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they did kind of develop their own, but they had to steal it.
We stole it from us.
They stole the information of how to do it first. And what is the U.S. going to say? Like, is the U.S. going to somehow prevent Russia or China from giving Iran a nuclear weapon? How would you do that?
Right.
How exactly do you intend to enforce or impose on Russia or China, should they choose to give Iran a nuclear weapon? What would you do to prevent it?
Yeah. Yeah. Bomb them. This is what we do to everybody else.
Yeah, that's not a good plan.
No, obviously not. But I mean, it's wild to me that the country that actually has secret nukes is the country that's on our side of this.
Yeah.
Like it's just baffling to me that we can sit here and holler about Iran when knowing what Israel's sitting on.
Yeah. And so what is this really about? Honestly, I don't know for sure. The best answer that I've heard, like the most compelling answer that I've come across, was on the No Agenda show. And they've said a lot of things over the last, I don't know, little while.
Yeah.
That I completely disagree with. And they seem to be going out of their way to attack an acquaintance of mine, which, like I'm not like friends with Scott Horton, but we have communicated off and on for 6 years or more.
Yeah.
I've spent hours with this guy. Like I know him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's great.
Yeah.
Like he's one of the nicest people that you'll ever come across. And I mean, he did an interview with us that was our 5th episode.
You're right. He didn't know us nobody knew us.
Yeah. But he was just like, oh yeah, absolutely. We'll make some time. We'll do it. And, we spent a lot more time than just the podcast with him that day. And I've seen him and talked to him at various events since then. And he's published some of my work at both the Libertarian Institute and at Anti-War. I like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I like him a lot.
Well,
I
and he
find
knows-
him to be really interesting and really bright, and he knows his
Well,
stuff.
at the end of the day, he knows his stuff. You can't say you don't.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I can understand why you might disagree with him. I've disagreed with him about some various points over the years, but like on the whole, I think he's got most of it figured out.
yeah.
I got off track. No, the point is, sorry, there's no reason for me to defend Scott Horton. He can do fine on his own.
Yeah.
And not enough people listen to me anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
Is the thing about attacking China's economy.
Yeah.
That Iran does, in fact, export a tremendous amount of its oil to China at a steep discount because of the sanctions that we've placed on Iran.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the easiest way to solve that problem is to take the sanctions off.
Right. And start buying it ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not like...
And I heard, I wish I could remember. This is before we actually bombed Iran. But I heard a U.S. official talking about, people's concerns about a war with Iran would cause oil prices to go up. And this official said, hey, we produce all our own oil. We produce enough oil in this country to serve all of our needs. So there's no reason that prices would go up. No, that's not how a market works, man.
Yeah.
Unless you start really imposing some strong market restrictions.
I was going to say...
So like export restrictions.
Yeah, I was going to say you'd have to control the exporting for that statement to be true.
Yeah, because if you take a significant portion, like a noticeable portion of the available resource off of the market,
Yeah.
and the same number of people want to buy the resource, then that'll drive the price up.
Yeah.
And even if we produce our own here, there's the incentive for the owners of these businesses to sell it elsewhere where they can get a higher price.
Yeah, they're going to sell it to the highest bidder.
Which is why the prices will have to come up here too to keep the oil at home.
Yeah.
Unless the government imposes export restrictions and tells all these businesses that they can't sell their oil overseas. In fact, we'll tell you who to sell it to. That's fascism, y'all.
Yeah. Which is honestly, I mean, that I could see that happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, the real threat though with war with Iran was that they may close the Strait of Hormuz. Mm-hmm. Is that pronounced?
Hormuz.
Hormuz. Yeah. Sure, I was pronouncing it wrong.
It's Hormuz, I think. Hormuz.
Hormuz. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the real threat was, which I guess their parliament or whatever they have voted to do that.
Yep.
It didn't happen, but I mean, that's still kind of lingering out there, I guess.
Yeah.
With the
It's still a possibility if things heat back up, they could do it.
yeah.
That would drive prices up because
Well, that
it
would
take
certainly drive prices up.
Yeah, it would force all these oil tankers to take different routes.
Yeah.
And because if Iran says that we're closing these straits, nobody will insure these ships.
Yeah.
And if nobody insures these ships, then they can't risk losing their cargo.
Exactly.
And so they would have to take different routes. And it makes the whole system more inefficient. In the same way that taking Iranian oil off the market makes the whole system less efficient.
Exactly.
But I think that's actually like an interesting and quite probable reason that the U.S. would want to encourage Israel to stay in a fight with Iran and to get us involved, or for us to get involved in a fight with Iran, is to just take that cheap oil off the market for China.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, the easiest way to answer that problem is just take the sanctions off of Iran.
Yeah.
Then they don't have any incentive to sell it to China at a huge discount because they can just sell it on the market at the regular price like everybody else. And that price would come down for all of us, not just China.
Yeah. Yeah, but you've got a lot of China hawks that are whatever we can do to weaken China, and this, I mean, I'm sure they look at this as one leg of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So same way as we're trying to weaken Russia through Ukraine, as well as that's worked.
Well, it is. Just read John Mearsheimer's stuff. Great powers are incentivized to prevent any other nation from becoming a regional power.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what, in the end, that's what this is all about. This is about the American empire.
Yeah.
And ensuring that the United States remains the single world power for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And that means encouraging a smaller nation to attack a regional power and get themselves destroyed. Oh, well.
Right.
No problem for us. It still helps us. It prevents that regional power from becoming more than a regional power.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, I'm sure that sounds pretty jaded to some people, but that's how nations act.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I keep hearing, I was talking to somebody else that was, like you hear people that buy into the propaganda and are like, oh, well, we have to prevent China from becoming a world power. We have to prevent Russia from becoming a world power. Truth is, neither of those countries has any particular interest or the capability to become a world power. Because we can't really sustain this. Yeah. We're talking about a $36 trillion debt at this point.
Right.
If we can't afford, this is the richest nation that ever existed before we went down this path.
Yeah.
And we're still somehow the richest nation, I think.
Depends on how you measure that.
Yeah, we're bleeding away wealth into the empire, but if we can't afford this, China can't, Russia can't.
Yeah. It's wild to me to think about. So, like, if we do crumble under debt, which at some point I just feel like that happens, it was Osama bin Laden that did that.
Yeah, probably.
Well, it is. Like, it all started after 9/11 with Bush with the terror wars.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what he planned to do. Like, I mean, that's what he wanted to do to us, was pull us into a war.
That's when that's the start of having several presidents in a row that doubled or tripled our total budget.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was, like I say, I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around, but like bin Laden was the catalyst.
Well, I know, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. It's just wild to me to think about, though.
Yeah.
That, that plan at some point is probably going to have worked.
Yeah.
The real question is
took decades, but
yeah, it still happened.
Yeah,
potentially.
And then the other part, though, is that people say, "Well, I'd rather us control the world than China or Russia." And like, I understand that, because you'd rather your own nation control things than another nation to control things.
Yeah.
But there's this like moral implication in that well, we're good and they're not.
Yeah.
Like. Examine
there's a reason a lot of folks chant death to America.
Yeah, examine the U.S. government. I mean, the death to America thing in Iran. Well, there's a good reason for that. It's that in 1953, we overthrew their democratically elected leader in Mossadegh and installed the Shah, who led a brutal dictatorship in Iran for 25 years.
Yeah.
Like, we did that.
Yeah.
And they know that.
Right? It's not like they forgot.
Yeah. So I don't know. It seems silly to hold a grudge still at this point, but you can understand
but it's not like we haven't not been antagonistic ever since then. It's not like they finally got rid of the Shah and then like we've been great buddies since then,
Well, we pretend the whole history with Iran started when they took over the U.S. Embassy.
Yeah.
In 79, right? 79?
Yeah.
Like that they had no reason for that. And actually it was, and the way the story is told is that they overthrew the dictator that we installed there, and then they took all our embassy people hostage.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was months after the overthrow of the Shah that they stormed the embassy and took Americans hostage. It was when the United States allowed the Shah to come to this country.
Yeah.
After he was running away, to seek cancer treatment, if I remember right. And they were like, "Let him die." we hate this man. And anyway, So, but it was another action by the U.S. in support of the guy that had been mistreating, like oppressing his people for a quarter century.
Yeah.
That they reacted to finally and overtook the embassy.
Yeah.
And I'm not justifying them capturing hostages at the embassy. I'm not saying that that was a good thing or that that was right or whatever. But it wasn't without reason.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's forgotten so oftentimes. It's like we want to portray these nations and actors to just be crazy people that do stuff for no reason. And that's like never the case.
Yeah. I mean, I had a guy telling me, oh, well, you don't understand just how terrible the Iranian regime is. Like, they'll just as soon behead you as anything else. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, no, I'm not saying that they're good people. But do remember that the United States has a quarter of the world's prison population.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so they may behead you, but we throw you in a cage for decades.
Exactly.
Like, is that honestly less brutal?
Yeah.
And especially, so many of the people that are so many of the people in prison in the United States are for nonviolent offenses.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like we're only doing that to, people that are holding up stores. And
it's not like we're like the most violent group of people on the planet,
Exactly. It's not all assaults and murders. It's mostly people engaging in economic activity that the U.S. government doesn't approve of.
Exactly. So.
Voluntary exchanges that the government doesn't think you should be exchanging.
Yeah. So,
anyway. But that's kind of the point that I was getting to is that what I said to that person was that I'm not convinced that the U.S. government is the good guy.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I'm pretty convinced that we're not.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that people, generally, no matter where you are, Iran, the United States, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, across Europe, across Africa, across Asia, everywhere that people exist,
Pritchard?
Sure. Everywhere that people exist, people are generally good.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people on this planet are good people, good moral people.
Yeah.
But I think that the people that seek power over others, which is people in government generally.
Yeah. Which is psychopaths.
Sociopaths.
Sociopaths.
I think is what they usually say.
Okay.
But anyway, it might be psychopaths, but sociopaths is the big one.
Is the one you're like, yeah, okay.
But anyway, the point is that I think that people that seek power over others are generally not good people.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean,
no matter where you are, including the United States.
Yeah.
So I think that our form of government has done a better job of restricting government actors' baser instincts.
Yeah.
But they're not good people.
Yeah.
They have to work around a system that was designed to prevent them from being terrible people.
That ties them down, right?
Yeah.
And they've slowly, not even that slowly, really, but they've
like
unraveled
eroded away those safeguards
exactly.
during all this time.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't think that it's the United States government's place to judge who are good regimes and who aren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which ones deserve to be destroyed and which ones deserve to be able to provide power to their people.
Yeah. All right.
Like electrical power, I mean.
Yeah.
Energy to their people.
Yeah.
It's just not our place. There's few groups that I would trust less with those decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really what I got, and I'm really hurting, so I'm kind of ready to close this out. So, if you got more to add, let's do it. And
I mean, the only other thing is, so Trump has made a 180 now. So so now the bombs have all been dropped, and Iran's had its retaliation, and Trump has declared an end to the war. It's now the 12-day war, and even though there's still Israel and Iran are still kind of volleying back and forth. I haven't heard anything today whether anything's been fired, but
Yeah.
It's astonishing to me though that Trump just thinks that he can just dictate that.
Yeah.
In which the truth is he can. Like, I mean, if he's serious about holding both sides accountable, like he can do that. But the truth is we all know that he won't. There's no way he's going to stop Israel from, he'll shoot down the missiles that are coming towards Israel, but he won't shoot down the ones coming out of Israel.
Yeah.
And he could. Like, I mean, that's an option.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how this kind of goes.
Well, he was at least publicly, and it could easily have just been a performance, but publicly he showed really real anger with Israel for breaking that ceasefire almost immediately.
Yeah. I saw. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen that clip by now.
I was a little disappointed in the language from the president.
I thought it was. I thought it was funny.
Oh, I didn't say I didn't think it was funny, but So here's the thing: is that the president speaking that way just kind of gives license to everybody else to speak that way.
Yeah,
and
I get it.
I think that we've become vulgar enough without the president giving permission,
dropping a bomb. Yeah.
I think about it all the time. It wasn't really that long ago that there were public profanity restrictions.
Yeah.
Like that you couldn't just be cursing while you're standing in line at a convenience store or whatever because you were on your phone or something.
I'm just telling you, I run a convenience store, and you don't do that crap in my store.
Yeah,
I will kick you out. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I've done it. Like, it's just it's one of those things. Like, I don't allow that. Like, as you know, and I feel like that's a place where a business owner can make that decision.
Sure. I mean, but think of like I notice it in myself sometimes. Like when we go out to eat.
Yeah.
Think of how we talk in restaurants sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, depends on how much we've had to drink, but I get your point.
Well, even when we haven't had a lot to drink, it's not like we really restrict ourselves from cursing any more than we would.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know that I ever really have, though.
Yeah. I mean, I try and watch my language a little bit more when I'm in public.
I mean, it depends on the environment.
We certainly have strived to keep this podcast profanity free.
Yeah. Which is a challenge sometimes.
It is a challenge sometimes. I have had to throw a little blank space in a couple of times.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. It's not really great coming from the president, but I watched the video. I felt like it was pretty genuine, that he was just fired up and dropped it. But I don't know. It was nice to see him irritated with Israel. I don't know. I don't look for it to really last, but
yeah, I don't think it'll matter. I mean, the real flip-flops that I'm frustrated about, and I understand the reason for it, though, is the rest of his team, I guess you'd say, the rest of the people around him that were opposed to the Iran war and then have been cheerleading it since we dropped the bombs. Oh, yeah, it was absolutely necessary. Certainly they were just days away from a nuclear weapon, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. When you know that that's not what they said to him and that wasn't what they were saying a month ago.
Exactly. They're on record not saying that. Yeah.
But like you work for the president, once the decision's been made and the action's been taken, I guess
you fall in line.
You kind of, yeah. Or you quit.
Yeah. That would be the noble thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But
those are cushy jobs, I suppose.
Well, that and you don't have the influence.
Actually, I wouldn't want those jobs for the most part. Like that all seem like really high stress.
But you have to weigh, like, do I have more influence by taking a stand here and walking, or do I have more influence by staying on
in his ear
and keeping the ear? Yeah. And it's an open question. Like, I mean, you do exert some influence by leaving in that manner, but I think at the end you usually come back to, well, you know, if I have his ear, I've still got a little more influence.
I can prevent this maybe from happening again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's hope they can.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
It looks like we're kind of out of this one and everything went all right. But I'd just like to close by saying this was extremely reckless on Trump's part.
Yeah.
Uncalled for and reckless. And just because we got through this one don't mean we will the next one, you know. And it's not what people who voted for him voted for.
Yeah.
At least overwhelmingly, you know. So other than that, that's all I got.
Okay, great. Let's close out.
All right. Yeah, I know you're ready.
All right. Well, we had to record a little early this week because it's just the only time that worked that we knew would work.
I didn't anticipate that last week when we closed out, and I'm trying to think if there's anything next week. I don't have anything I can think of.
Yeah, it'll be 4th of July-ish.
Yeah, that's Friday.
Yeah.
4th is.
Yeah.
Shouldn't interfere with me, but I say that now, and then next week it'll be like, oh my God, there's a million things going on. So,
well, hopefully we'll be back on our normal day on Thursday next week. Maybe we get lucky and we record on the 4th of July.
Yeah, we could do that. I wouldn't mind that.
We have before.
We have before. We absolutely have before.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, we'll be back next week, someday or another.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook. You can subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean. Like and share, comment. You can always email me, michael@thelibertymike.com. Like to hear feedback. Or if you have a suggestion of something that we need to cover, or if you have some information that you think would change my mind about.
The goings on of the world.
Yeah. Or something I need to know about. Anyway, yeah, you can always email me, michael@thelibertymike.com. Tell your friends about us. Share the podcast, share the Facebook page, I guess.
Share the memes.
That's like the only place that we have a real presence, I suppose. So,
yeah.
But anyway, we'll be back next week when we finally get this right. And in the meantime, try to stay free.
Life short, live free.
Ciao.
Later.